everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, where normally we review. Everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Normally we are doing episode by episode reviews of currently on air shows. However, today sometimes we do predictions videos where we predict what's coming up in a future season. What do I want to see from the next season of a hot show? What are we being graced by to see? See the same thing back on TV. What's going to make it different? What's going to make it unique as a result? I'm very excited for it. Really. Today we are giving. I'm giving my predictions on the second season of Matlock, which I'm superbly excited about. I can't wait. We just wrapped an incredible freshman run, led by the lovely Jenny Snyder Ehrman, starring Katie Bates in presumably her final role ever. Well, she has clarified saying that it's not her final role. She will take a new job, but right now Matlock will most likely be her final definitive role for her amazing career that spawns decades and decades by this point. But yeah, no, when I picked to do the show, it was mainly from the context of I wanted to do something a little bit differently. I wanted to tackle another reimagining of a classic that, for some reason, every time I've done a show similar to Walker, to Perry Mason, my father's always watched it in the past when he was a younger man. Now, as me being the younger man, seeing the new revivals pop up, whether it was Perry Mason on HBO Max or seeing Walker on CW. Now, here with Matlock on CBS, it was very much of a different beast. I have recognized a couple of actors from previous shows that I've watched, and now to the point where, we come here, not knowing that the person spearing the entire ship created one of my favorite shows of all time. Not one of my favorite definitive top 10 shows of all time, but one of my favorites, which was Jane the Virgin. So the fact that all of those elements combined, coming here, delivering such an incredible first season that I'm so happy to watch live, that I was so happy to be able to review as they were coming out, experiencing only just a small portion of hopefully a larger story to come for this interpretation of the Matlock character. Well, not even interpretation, more like this story that we have in Matlock. And I was just thrilled by it. I really, really am. And the fact that very early on, not even a couple episodes in, we already got renewed for season 2. So I knew going into this that they were crafting for a special, continuation. That, where do we see from season 2? Which again, we have a confirmed return. We will be back this fall with new episodes as Maddie's journey to expose the truth against Jacob Samore concerning the opioids crisis. We'll continue on that, having a new team member, having all sorts of new elements, new challenges coming our way for the team, the small team that we've been following throughout the entire season. There's so much to focus about. I want to talk about, but just before I get to any of that, I'm just letting everyone know I will be spoiling the entirety of the first season of Matlock. So if you haven't even seen Matlock yet, this is not the video for you. I will be spoiling everything from the season thus far, everything from the show. Everything basically. So again, if you haven't seen it, please do not watch this. Please come back down the road. We have our episode by episode review series for the first season of Matlock already up on YouTube, so you can go check that out as a little companion piece guide as you're watching the season, which currently is airing on Paramount Plus. Hopefully, it will be available on other platforms, on home media down the road as this gets released. At least it's my hope. I really would love to own that DVD if they do make one for the show. It is CBS, so they're really more active on making DVDs than most of the big network televisions that I've noticed in the past. But again, that's your forewarning about it. So we're jumping right into it. So here we go. So for me, again, I'm very happy to get to say that we are getting a season 2. There is going to be a season 2 down the road, and I'm very excited to see how all of those elements are going to play out by the end of it. I think going forward, where do I see the larger story go? Obviously, there was a part of me that was considering, are we going to end the season with the whole crisis being exposed by Maddie? Are we going to see that happen at the end of the season, or is this going to be a next season thing? And as we approach the deadline, just the way the delivery goes, I realized this only told the story it needed to do, where we've had Maddie infiltrate this single-handedly on this unsuspecting law firm that has been operating for many, many years without much of an issue, just, conducting day-to-day business, despite having this, very concerning conspiracy lurking beneath them. And now, Maddie going in there having to be able to, garnish all the evidence against them, with nearly no one figuring out what the heck is going on underneath. And having the story end with, the goal was Maddie was going to infiltrate and figure out who exactly took the documents. We got to the end of the story. Now we pivot to the second half, where now Maddie needs to figure out, can she really expose him? Because at the end of the day, the big mystery was that the three top individuals at the firm were responsible: Senior, the majority partner, his son Julian, or his soon-to-be ex-wife by that point at the end of the season, Olympia. And we got for this entire back and forth, all the relationship bonding and everything, that it turned out to be Julian at the end of the day, revealing his darkest secret in the history of his legal profession career. And that's where we ended off. We end off with that revelation, but without, much causality to see, will Olympia, his ex-wife, decide to not pull the trigger and keep this a secret to maintain their family? Does she sacrifice everything Maddie's worked for the past multiple sets of months to justify that? How does Maddie have to deal with not only the conclusion of this point of the matter, but the fact that she has had a recall of her second go at life, her second win, her restart point, potentially being a lawyer again? How does that impact her current family? How does it impact potentially future family coming in there? It's, everyone's on edge. And then you have all the individuals in between, where Julian, again, having to finally face his greatest sin. Sarah dealing with the consequences soon to come from her rival. And Billy potentially being a dad. There's just so many things that we leave off in, and that I'm very curious to see. From a story perspective, it's not that hard to fill into the shoes. I do see this being more of a back and forth with Olympia, where I wouldn't be surprised if we kickstart season 2 with Olympia deciding to hide it for a while, being in on it with Julian, but however still maintaining some sort of level of secrecy around him, still having possession of the documents, and having Maddie being more consumed about the return of her grandson's true lineage of a father, dealing with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we delve through many different things, do a lot of different side steps, which again will lead to the larger story of trying to expose the larger thing. And I do believe this will be the season where we will find out about it. If we do get a full run of episodes, another 18 episodes, I do believe we will get that. I don't think there is much to do to be able to hinder that. But it just comes to the question of there's so many creative opportunities they can bring about, with this front. The fact of the matter, they can no longer really maintain a lot of secrecy, since, Olympia knows about Maddie's true identity, and now Julian knowing that Olympia and, to an extent, Maddie does know about what he's performed. You can't really go back to the same firm, and that's going to build into some very creative, a lot of tippy toes to move around to, and I think that's going to be the more key of it. I would love for Senior to get promoted to series regular. I think he was just a very charming character, despite his really malicious activities happening behind the scenes, his decisions that has really made an impact on everyone. I would love to see that progress forward in the season as well, having him be upgraded, having him be more still borderline of still being the old righteous partner, but at the same time being a looming threat for everyone to kind of handle with. Because at the end of the day, Maddie is obviously going to, if and when she does discover this, it's going to clearly make an enemy to Senior. Olympia now knowing the truth as well, looking at Senior in a different perspective, and Julian, at least to what he's saying, to being on the opposite side of his own father right now. There's just so many variables in this. There really is, and I really want to see how that's all going to play out from the story perspective of it, where I would like to say the theme for the season is allegiance, where I think sides will be determined, where do things stand with the future of them. I do want this show to go on for a little bit longer. I could easily see this being a 5-season show. But at the other flip side of it, I do also want to see there being more of a synergy as well as friction between everyone. Obviously, I feel like everyone is kind of going to go off on the wrong foot, even though Sarah and Billy don't even know what's going on with the real case of the matter here. them still having their own conflicts to come, whether it's going to be Billy having to deal with the fact he's going to be a father, or Sarah eventually going to be unearthed as, like, going behind the firm's back. These are all going to, like, really play into the whole larger unshakiness of this firm going forward. It's not going to be closed in and shut. And I think that's going to be something that I would love to see as we progress forward with it, with the main story of it. And that, again, like I said, I trust Jenny, I trust the writing team that they're going to craft something amazing, and I can't wait to see how it's all going to play out in just a set of months coming up. It will be in about maybe about 5-7 months, hopefully. Hopefully speaking. So then we go on to to the character pieces of it. Obviously we have all these characters, and like I said before, when it comes to Senior, I would love for him to become a series regular prominently. He's currently billed as a recurring guest star, and at least at the time it was necessary to kind of hinder his involvement. So we kind of just view him as like a very traditional, like, older man who's been through a lot in life, who is the senior partner for this firm, and just trying to have his own sassy attitude, basically speaking. But his allowing us to see more of him will allow us to kind of create a different picture of him, because as of right now, Senior is the culprit behind this, but maybe there's an untapped story that we don't know. And I think benefiting from more Senior would be, I think, for me, positive at the end of the day, and I would really love to see that, get the character a little bit more in the limelight, especially now that, there's so many negative connotations against him, that this would just be another piece to that puzzle when it comes to that. Additionally, I already know it's every season 2. We get a new character that somehow joins the cast for the rest of the season. It's unanimously, it always happens. It always happens in almost every TV show. You just look at it, it's like, after season 2, they just naturally become a part of the cast for season 3 and beyond. It just happens. It always does. And, Jenny already confirmed that, yes, there will be a character like that joining the firm, and I would be quite interested to see who that would be. Realistically speaking, I think it definitely would use that terminology to try and come in as kind of like a new lens for the show. Maybe we'll get a little time jump afterward. Maybe she's a fresh new hire, possibly speaking. Maybe Maddie would garnish a cadence to her. Possibly speaking, trying to inspire the younger generation before things go forward. Because I'm thinking outside the box here. I really am. I don't imagine them bringing in another senior partner or anyone of the sort, because to really shake things up. It could also be at the same time we could also get a new pharmaceutical said lawyer like Julie, because again, Julian is no longer going to be part of Jacobson Moore moving forward. So there being an empty spot there, someone's going to have to fill it. So that would 100% lead into leading to that potentiality of what the season 2 story will eventually largely become. Perhaps maybe they have even a bigger lineage than we figured out before. Then you have into the nature of the existing cast. Obviously, I already spoke about Senior for a little bit. Going into talked about Billy. I think Billy's done a lot in season 1. Not gonna lie to you, but season 2, him becoming a father is going to be something that it's going to be very interesting, because again, it didn't really seem like the place of anyone on the show was really teeing up for parentalship. It didn't really seem like that. It just kind of seemed like a latest obstacle in Billy's role in being a really good lawyer. Again, we've already seen him have one case, and the fact that he's ready to go. Being a dad is going to be a completely other thing. Will he reconcile with his ex-girlfriend just to maintain a semblance of a family life for the child, or what does he do? What does that really do? And there's other responsibility even before the child's born, just being there with the mother, trying to change your life for the better. Start to think of a lot of different financial stuff. There's a lot to think of to becoming a father. And Billy's just in a place right now where he didn't think like that. That wasn't part of his plan. Which I'm like, my dude, you should have 100% worn a condom. That should have 100% happened at some point in the excursion of things. But he did it. It really did it. Now he has to pay the consequences of his actions, and how that ends up to play out, we don't entirely know. It just kind of is a case-by-case basis of it. but we're going to see how that goes. We're 100% going to see how that all ends up playing out. And I really hope they don't do one of those, like, pregnancy scares in the season premiere and that it doesn't end up happening. It seems like this is going to happen, but I really, just in case, I don't want to see that, really. I want to see this be trying for maybe by the end of season 2, if it is going to follow a traditional television season, then like towards the end of the season, we do get to see Billy's child being born, and maybe that being a focal point for him in season 3. So that would be what I would like to see in his journey, like as he slowly descends from like having to kind of balance between being a lawyer and being a father at the same time. Moving into Sarah. Sarah's poised for success. Obviously at the end of season 1, she got a lot of praise from Olympia, which again is very hard to do. It really is. She won her first big case despite making many mistakes along the way, and now at this point is that she is now trying to figure out, oh crap, what is next? What's the next move? What's the next play? And then in the meanwhile, the rival who she never thought to be, it was her rival that Billy hooked up with, that even the rival never really viewed it as a rivalry against Sarah, is now going against Sarah. Like, what is that going to play? How is that going to, create the distortion in her plans for conquest, basically speaking, to become a successful lawyer? Because essentially on their first case, like, she did so many, not shady practices, more like immoral actions to get to that point where, like, it seemed like she wasn't really ready to take on a case, where she was, but like not in the cadence that it ended up doing. So it was very unfortunate, to see that. And hopefully, Sarah doesn't fall too much for Grace. Hopefully she does manage to outsmart her, but definitely, when you make an enemy in the workplace, it can be very volatile, because, like, you never know what angle they're going to peer through. And since Sarah is the person she is, it would seem like a very difficult challenge for her to overcome at the end of the day of that. Then you go to Julian, where again Julian's in a very interesting place. I love Jason Riddler. I really, really do. He played Dipper Pines on Gravity Falls. I love the dude. I told my partner that because our very first show that me and her binged together was Gravity Falls. So it's like, when I had to tell her, like, when we started the show, I'm like, oh yeah, no, Dipper Pines is one of the characters, and I'm not like the actor who voiced him, is on the show. So it's very weird, like, just like the multiple layers we've seen of him this season. He's gonna, I don't know about Julie. I really, really, I want to trust him. I really, really do. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I really, really am. Because it's really hard for me to believe Jason Riddler can play like an evil character. I don't know why. Is it something in his voice, something in his like mannerisms that like maybe make me very difficult to believe that? But at the other flip of it, I can see that happening. I really can, where he may have an ulterior motive. He may just want to get out of it. I really don't know. I 100% don't know of that. So I can imagine a twist happening, from that point onward. But regardless of how that case might end up becoming, it still very much is that cadence for Julie. Regardless of how it ends up, aligning the lines, it is still very much the point of nature of like, hey, he's just he just wants to atone. It's at the end of season 1, he had his very long speech where he said, like, yeah, I was just a son trying to get the blessings from his dad, and it didn't work out. And he did, again, an immoral action that, breaks the code of a lawyer to allow him to be able to kind of, progress forward in his career. That's what he was thinking, but it never ended up happening. So now, how do you atone for that? Does he go on Team Matlock? Does he kind of still do his own thing? And him not being part of Jacobson Moore does open up a whole interesting avenue. Like, I definitely can see that being the beginnings of, like, what the second half of the series could be like. Because I don't imagine them staying at Jacobson Moore forever. I really, really don't. I do imagine there's going to be a tip-off point where Olympia might start her own firm, or even, like, maybe her and Julian decide to open up their own firm with Maddie involved, allowing them to kind of, create this new branch between. I can easily see that happening. Do I see it happening this season? I don't think so. That's more like a season 3 finale type of cliffhanger to like really rejuvenate a season 4. I'm really thinking long terms with that one. I really am, because I don't see Jacobson Moore being the permanent place for them. I do see them evolving and like, going somewhere else. And I would say Julian's separation from his dad from the firm itself is, I think, the proper beginnings, the proper seedlings of getting to that. And I want to see that grow. I really, really do. And, you never know. Maybe Julian could always respark things with Olympia. Who knows? But, like, obviously right now, that's, like, way off the table right now. At least right now, he's just trying to, like, figure out, like, is he going to pay for his actions fully, or is his ex-wife going to give him one more blessing in disguise? Who knows? Who really, really knows about that? But we'll find out about that hopefully very soon, and I can't wait to see. how that all shakes up to be with him. Because again, I really like the actor, I really do. I do like his character, and all the twists and turns we've seen of him in the second half has very much kind of shifted my perspective of him to the point where like, I'm not even certain about it. I really am not. Then going to Olympia again. Olympia has been like I think a de facto. She reminds me of a lot of characters that I've seen before in the past, where like the way we pivot to her in the beginning is very much like she's going to be an antagonist to Maddie. She is 100% going to be a thorn in the way. She's going to make her life a living hell. And the fact of the matter is that, we've seen them bond. We see them really grow. By the time they have their first victory dance just before the midwinter finale was very necessary. I wasn't expecting that. I really, really wasn't. I was expecting them to be a respectful commodity to it, but for them to become besties to an extent just before shit hits the fan was not what I was expecting. I'm not really, yeah. Definitely season 2 is 100% is going to focus on rebuilding trust. Again, she already has 2 people she has to mentor with, mostly Sarah and part of Billy. She has now a really rocky relationship with Maddie right now, whether or not how things progress with their time magic is some more. They're still going to work together for a while longer. Julian hiding this big secret from her for most of their marriage, and now her own like former father-in-law being part of like a very illegal activity. It's a level of trust, really, to be honest with you. And again, like I said with Julie, like pivoting on to a solo career, and again also Elijah, who she was expecting to be her follow-up partner following Julian, not panning out. For me, it seems like Olympia, a part of her is alone. Like she is very alone. She's not alone, but like in like a close confidant, she is alone. And the things that I've noticed very strictly throughout the conclusion of season 1, where she was like really bonding with that ADA, I could see that going romantical. I could see that, maybe a reconciliation with Julian's down in the car, but her and him definitely do have a vibe there, and I do I can see that developing and maturing as the potential season 2 goes on, as again, they established themselves in the penultimate episode as potentially building the layers of doing their own thing down the road, especially whether or not, like I said, Olympia or Julian decide to kind of spin off into their own fur. I could definitely see that going somewhere, especially as part of Olympia's longer journey, like, having a close confidant again. I could 100% see that pushing Maddie away a little bit. Because again, at the end of the day, even though, like, she's probably still learning to the fact that Maddie had good intentions, most of the time with their relationship, there were still times where she lied to her, that she had to do very immoral actions, such as stealing her laptop, which contained her father's last audio message to her, hidden away from her for months and months on end. Like 100%, like she can never really trust Maddie, at least anytime soon from now. So that is definitely something that I'm gonna have to see how that's gonna get rectified down the road, because it is something that they are going to have to work out, and Olympia is going to have to start to learn to rebuild real trust again. It's going to take a while, because like the age-old happening goes, where it takes a long time to gain trust. It takes a few seconds to break trust. So even though they're caught in a step and a half, it's still not going to be easy for them to replenish it. And then when it comes to Maddie, I would not be surprised if we take a bit of a break on her when it comes to the whole larger Brexit case. I can 100% see her still doing it, but the return of her grandson's dad to the picture, her daughter's former lover, is 100% going to create a bit of a whirlwind for her, because again, the last 15 years of her life has been set in stone, where like, yes, she lost her daughter, but she gained her grandson in full custody. Now she's kind of becoming to find her second wind, trying to see how do we navigate that, how do we figure that all out, and that's still another twist and turn at play between them, and then him coming back into the picture is not what she's expecting. Like the fact she could potentially have like a very weird son-in-law to an extent is going to be something that I think is going to like really wrestle at her, like like she's fought for so long to like avenge a part of her family, that her own family is starting to react to the changes that have happened. Her husband Edwin not being fully responsive to the decision Maddie is taking of like, once they get back to San Francisco, she's going to start up a law firm or go back into lawyering full time. That being her like chance to finish off her career in the legal field. Alfie growing up, and there's just so many things in her family life that's about to change, that like it might create the questionability of like, was the entire thing she did Jacobson Moore to cover the truth worth it? It was that worth the risk now with his appearance. I'm not saying it's bad. Maybe he's clean. Maybe he's reformed. I really don't know. But the fact of the matter is, this could potentially change things with that certain dynamic, and it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know why. I could easily imagine Maddie getting arrested at some point in the season. It's just a random throwaway that I can 100% see, like either the midwinter finale or like one of like the final lead-ins to the last run of the episodes for the season where Maddie gets arrested. Maybe she gets uncovered for being a mole, for being like, hired at Jacobson Moore for very illegal activities. I could 100% see that and seeing Olympia defending her case. I could 100% see that. And if that does end up happening, I'll give myself a pizza party. But until then, I really don't know 100% speaking when it comes to that. But Maddie's in for a season. I'm going to say that much. Last season was like kind of a breeze for her. I imagine this season is going to be a nightmare for her. And, that's going to obviously make her character stronger. She's really going to have to double think things. But at the very end of the day, it's still something she needs to get through, and I can't wait to see how that's all gonna line up for her, basically speaking. And other than that, what I'm just very excited for is just I'm just excited to come back into this world. I really, really am. Nearly every episode in the season has pulled me in a way where I'm like, I'm so jazzed. I'm so ready to get back into it. I'm ready to go back for more. I really am. Even now, like talking about it again, because for me, it's been a couple weeks since the finale. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm already livid. I'm already like, I just want to get back to that world. I really do. We're obviously not there yet. We don't even know when they start production again. Considering the fact that this is going to seem like a different production since like season 1 was filmed nearly in its entirety before the first season aired. So they had so much polish. But again, like I said, the showrunner has had history of not crunch, but more like keeping to a schedule. And I could 100% imagine that, we will still have an even better season 2 as a result. And she has even mentioned there's a way how the end of season 2 leads into part 3, which, even saying that is like very amazing. I like I said, I do hope CBS keeps this on this lineup for a long time to come. I really, really hope so. But until then, that's all I got to say on the matter. Matlock Season 2 will premiere this fall on CBS. I'm not being paid for that promotion. I'm just letting you know that. You can stream the entire first season right now on Paramount Plus if you haven't yet, or if you just want to rewatch it. As well as our entire episode-by-episode review series is available on youtube.com/ActionX for your enjoyment, so stay tuned until that. Let me know down below, what do you want to see in Season 2? What do you want to see from the story perspective, from an episode perspective, from the characters? I would love to have a conversation with you about it, because reality right now, I can't talk about it with anyone. I really can't. But that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from Action, giving my thoughts on what I want to see in the upcoming second season of Matlock, coming soon to CBS this fall. If you want to know what we're doing or What's to Do besides our Matlock episode reviews, or our Matlock reviews, period. Currently, right now, we are doing Suits LA episode reviews each and every week after Brand News on NBC, and we're also doing Rookie episode reviews each and every week after Brand News on ABC. But if you don't care about Matlock, from a new content perspective, this is the true end of it. Like I said, we just wrapped our coverage for the last almost a year on it. Now we're kind of done on the new content stuff, so this is the end of the road for that. We will be back next week with a Season 1 spoiler-free review for anyone who has yet to catch out Season 1, or even Matlock in general, even to right now, and that's now, again, totally bingeable right now on Paramount Plus and hopefully on other platforms and on home media down the road. But other than that, like I said, that's the end of the road. We will return this fall, as we will be reviewing each and every episode of Season 2 as it comes out. But again, if you're going to see us next week, thank you. I'll see you guys till then. But if this is the end of the road once more, thank you so much for watching. I do greatly appreciate all the support that we've been getting for the Matlock sub-review series since the get-go. I said this before at the live, but the fact that we have an episode review of that show that hit 5,000 views. It's one of our highest, which again, it isn't that much, but for me, it's a lot. The fact that thousands of people watch that, and we still have hundreds of loyal people watching each and every episode review, each and every video we talk about Matlock. I was very elated to see that. I was very happy to see that, and hopefully we're going to keep that same energy going as we get into Season 2. But like I said, that will be down the road. But again, Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to, ring that bell, and follow us on social media for more. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other as always. Peace out.